I think one of the scariest things about AI is the accelerated pace of change, right? So, what do I mean by that? So, historically, human beings have been used to change happening at a relative pace, right? So, if you go back, 1903 was the Wright brothers, right? They had the flight in Kitty Hawk. 1969 was the landing on the moon. So 66 years to get from the first flight to putting a man on the moon. Impressive, right? But that was a long time. Now, fast forward to like when I was born in, 79, and our generation growing up in the computer era, the rate of change is computers. There's a thing called Moore's Law. And Moore's Law is every 2 years, the amount of transistors you can pack onto a computer chip doubles. So what does that mean? Computers basically double in power every 2 years. And if you think back to your life, that's about the pace that it's been in our lifetimes, right? And I think back to, the different times that we've seen these technological things happen before. The computer revolution, that's the first one I always use, right? I remember being in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, mid 80s, and it was, you would bring Campbell's soup labels in so your school could buy a computer. I think we got our first computer at home was probably the early 90s. I didn't get my own real first computer that was my own until maybe 10 or so years after that. The early 2000s probably is when I got my own, where it was my own computer in my room. I remember in high school in the mid 90s, there was a friend of mine who had a computer in his room, and I was like, wow, this kid's family's rich, and so about 10 years, right? And then the internet, right? If you look back, the early to mid 90s, the AOL days, and kind of how over time the usage of the internet grew. It got faster, the prices got more affordable, and then probably 10 years or so is when it started to get high speed, maybe the mid 2000s, right? Think of smartphones. I got my first cell phone, right? So to me, the three revolutions we've already seen were the personal computer, the internet revolution, and the smartphone revolution. I got my first cell phone probably 98, 99 in Portugal. It was it was just a brick phone, just made phone calls. I thought I was so cool. I had a cell phone. I didn't get an iPhone until probably 2009, the iPhone 3G. So about a 10-year run to go from cell phone to smartphone. And now think of where the iPhone has gone from 2007 when it first came out to today, right? So the rate of change has been steady with that, pretty much in line with Moore's Law. Every 2 years, it gets better, right? It just gets, exponentially better over time, and that compounds over time. So now we look at AI. I think AI, the growth, the doubling of the power of AI is less than 2 years. I would argue 6 months, right? So every 6 months, any AI model you use gets twice as good. So when you think about that, the rate of change of what we're seeing, it's 4 times faster than what we've been used to in our lifetimes with computers, right? Go back 3 years ago when ChatGPT first came out, right? And it was first available to where we are today, and where those models have gone. And I'm making this video in my car that AI is driving me right now. And a lot of these concepts for this video, I had a conversation with Grok, the AI built into my car, and we talked about this and kind of what my ideas were and helped me structure my thoughts for this video. So I think the scariest part for people is how fast that things are changing and developing in AI. And I just don't think we as a society are used to that rapid change. But I promise you, what you're seeing now is the beginning. It's going to get faster, right? So we're in 2026. So in 2030, okay, I think what we're used to seeing in life, which every 2 years with Moore's Law would be, a double and then a double. I think 2030, we could see 10, 15 years, 20 years of relative change to what we're used to in the next 4 years, right? The next 4 years in AI could be the same relative change that we've experienced in maybe 4 years in our traditional how we measure things with computers, And AI is not perfect. I just had to disengage my full self-driving because, the map is not the greatest on here yet, right? There's still some glitches with the map, but overall it works. So guys, that is what I think is the most jarring part about AI. I think that's the part that most people have a hard time wrapping their head around, and I think that's what scares them. But if you just accept the fact that things are changing more than ever and just get excited about it and just kind of embrace it and do the best you can to learn it and make yourself more efficient, make yourself more useful, make yourself, enjoy the leverage that AI gives you, I think you will really enjoy this journey, right? And if you do nothing and you just bury your head in the sand, it's probably not going to end well. I got to be honest. I think the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to see a lot of disruption in job markets. I think it's going to get really ugly before it gets really better. You know what I mean? So my advice to everyone is, don't fight it, don't ignore it, embrace it, and enjoy the ride. And just understand that things are going to move faster than we've ever experienced in our lifetimes, and that's a good thing. All right? Take it easy, guys. Enjoy it. Let me know below in the comments, what you're most excited about with AI and what what you're most scared of with AI. All right? Take it easy, guys.